There are moments when the silence around you feels alive. It presses on your chest like an invisible hand, reminding you how fragile you are, how alone you have become. You look for a voice, a hand, a presence, but all you find is the echo of your own breath. You begin to wonder if this solitude is punishment or a quiet invitation. Maybe the world stepped away not to hurt you, but to show you something sacred. Because when everything fades, what remains is the truth of who you are and who you still have, your Creator. And in that stillness, when your eyes lift beyond the pain, you remember a man who once stood alone too. Umar. A soul unshaken by fear, a heart that found courage in faith. Perhaps your loneliness is not emptiness, but a mirror of that same divine strength waiting to awaken within you. There are seasons when life pulls everything away from you. Friends grow distant, voices fade, and the world that once felt warm begins to turn cold. It feels unfair, like you are being punished for trying to do what is right. But in truth, this emptiness is not cruelty, it is cleansing. It is where the soul learns who it truly depends on. Solitude has a way of stripping the illusions we built around comfort. When no one is there to praise you, you begin to see your intentions clearly. When no one is there to save you, you begin to feel how near God has always been. Every silence, every tear, every sleepless night, it is a quiet classroom where faith is taught not by words, but by endurance. When Umar embraced the truth, he did not whisper it in secret. He walked to the center of Mecca and declared, "I am a Muslim." He stood there knowing what could come: rejection, hatred, even death. But his heart had already chosen peace over fear, and that peace came not from men, but from the one who guided his every breath. To be alone in truth is heavier than to walk with the crowd in falsehood. Yet that is the weight that purifies the heart. Loneliness in the path of sincerity is not a curse. It is the moment when heaven begins to watch you closely. When Umar stood in that crowd, he was not surrounded by support, but by hostility. Yet something in his spirit refused to bow. That is what solitude does. It refines the soul until fear loses its voice. When you have faced the storm alone and survived, you no longer need the shelter of others to stand tall. You begin to walk with a quiet strength that no enemy can touch. This is the mystery of divine isolation. Allah removes the noise so that you can finally hear what was always there, the sound of your own conviction. It is the silence where clarity returns, where your purpose sharpens, where your prayers become real. You start to understand that every absence was mercy in disguise. Sometimes He hides you from people to reveal you to yourself. Because when the world turns its back, He turns you inward toward the strength He planted long ago. That is where your faith stops being borrowed from others and starts to belong to you. And when that faith matures, when it takes root deep within, you no longer beg for company. You realize that standing alone with truth is more sacred than standing with 1,000 who follow lies. In that moment, your solitude becomes your strength, the same strength that once made Umar's name echo through centuries. Every soul that seeks truth must walk through fire, not the fire that burns the skin, but the one that burns illusions, pride, attachment, fear. It is the unseen flame that consumes everything false until only sincerity remains. You will feel it when life becomes harder, when prayers feel unanswered, when faith is tested in silence. But within that pain, something divine is being shaped. Umar's courage was not born in comfort. It was forged in that same fire. Before faith made him unbreakable, it broke him open. He had to face the darkness of his own heart before light could enter. And when it did, he became a man whose faith was so heavy that even the devils avoided his path. Pain is the teacher that no one wants, yet it is the only one that never lies. It shows you what you truly believe. When everything is taken from you and you still whisper Alhamdulillah, that is when the fire has done its work. It has burned away everything except love for the one who never leaves. So if you are being tested, if you feel the heat of life pressing against your chest, know this: you are not being destroyed. You are being purified. What you are losing is what was never meant to stay. What remains will be stronger, calmer, and closer to God. Umar once said that a person who fears Allah fears nothing else. That kind of courage does not appear overnight. It is carved through loss, silence, and surrender. You only learn real faith when you have nothing left to hold except the unseen. The fire teaches you to let go of control, of people, of expectations, until you learn that peace begins where attachment ends. In those moments of breaking, the soul learns to breathe again. The same flame that once scared you now warms you. You begin to thank God for the trials, because they cleaned your heart in ways comfort never could. You realize that pain was never the enemy, forgetfulness was. And when you finally rise from the ashes, you are no longer the same person. You become quiet, grounded, untouchable. Like Umar, your strength no longer comes from pride, but from surrender. You do not burn anymore, you shine. There will come a time when doing what is right will make you the only one standing. The world will tell you to bend, to stay silent, to follow what is easy. But truth was never meant to be easy. It demands loneliness. It demands courage. It asks you to rise when everyone else kneels, to speak when every voice goes quiet. That is the moment when faith stops being a word and becomes a way of being. Umar knew that moment well. When others hesitated, he stood. When others doubted, he acted. His steps were not loud, yet they shook the ground beneath him. Not because of anger, but because of conviction. That is what true strength looks like. Not rage, not arrogance, but peace that refuses to compromise with falsehood. Every generation needs souls who stand when none will. Those who guard truth not with swords, but with integrity. When you stand in that silence, you may feel small, but heaven sees you. Angels record that moment when you choose principle over comfort, sincerity over applause. And that is when something sacred happens. You realize you do not need the crowd to be right. You do not need approval to have worth. You simply stand, quietly, firmly, and your heart says, "This is enough." That stillness is victory, the same victory that lived in Umar's unshaken soul. To stand alone is to be misunderstood. People will question your calm, your silence, your refusal to follow noise. They will think you are distant, when in truth, you are anchored. Because once your heart has tasted clarity, you cannot return to confusion. You do not stand to be seen, you stand because truth is heavier than comfort. This is the essence of spiritual strength. To remain gentle while the world hardens, to forgive while you could fight, to keep walking even when the path disappears beneath your feet. Umar walked that path. His steps remind us that faith is not proven by words, but by what we do when no one is watching. So when you find yourself standing in that same silence, do not rush to fill it. Let it mold you. Let it teach you how to trust what cannot be seen. Because in the stillness where you stand alone, you are never truly alone. You stand with the same light that once guided him. Maybe this loneliness that weighs on your chest is not a curse, but a sacred invitation. An unseen hand pulling you away from the noise, asking you to listen, not to the world, but to the whisper inside. Because strength is not built in crowds. It is born in the quiet corners where your soul learns to breathe without needing approval, applause, or company. Umar's story is not just history, it is a mirror. It reflects the courage you are capable of, the peace you have yet to find. He stood alone, not because he wanted to be different, but because truth demanded it. Perhaps your solitude is carrying the same message, that faith sometimes requires you to walk paths no one else understands. So if you are in that season where everything feels stripped away, breathe. Do not run from it. Sit with it. This silence is not empty. It is full of guidance, waiting to speak when your heart becomes still enough to hear. What feels like an ending may be the beginning of your awakening. If these words found you tonight, take a moment before you scroll away. Write something for yourself in the comments, a sentence, a prayer, a truth you wish to remember when the world grows loud again. Because sometimes the smallest act of reflection becomes the loudest form of faith.